Shabbat Shalom, you can be seated. I hope everyone has the study sheets. Everyone? Yes? Yes? Yes. Okay. We just want to spend a little time looking at a couple of texts. This is a bunch of texts about song, or the specific song of today, and the nature of song, and what we learn. I mean, there's so much to learn this Shabbat about this particular song, and there's many commentaries on why now. And so we just thought we'd look at a couple of texts briefly and enrich our lives with how the tradition thinks about song on the Shabbat Shirah. So we're going to start with text 2, which is the Rashi on the opening of the Shir, Az Yashir Moshe. Then Moshe sang, and the particular focus of this Rashi's comment, what's bothering Rashi, is that that's the question that usually is asked. What's bothering Rashi? What's bothering him? I mean, I bet a lot of things are bothering Rashi, but in this particular verse, what was bothering him, or what was curious, is the then question. Then Moshe sang. What caused Moshe to sing? The then must be a response to something. And so Rashi answers that question. He says, then when he saw the miracle, meaning the opening of the sea, it rose in his heart that he should sing a song. So here in this case, what Rashi is commenting on is what caused the song to happen. Why did he sing? And the answer given is, I mean, it's a fairly pshat answer. It's a simple answer, but a true one, which is, in witnessing the miracle, he actually is kind of propelled to sing, which is that kind of like a response mechanism to the power of awesomeness, is one way we imagine what prompted the song. Do you want to take the next one?
Yeah. And if you look at the next text, text number 3, page 1, we have another piece that comes from the Mechilta, and this is a piece which actually speaks about Miriam. And we look at Miriam and all of the women, and the question is, they were leaving Egypt, but how is it that they knew that they should bring these timbrels and these dances with them in their celebration? And so it says the righteous women in that generation were confident that God would perform miracles for them, and they accordingly had brought timbrels with them from Egypt. You would think when you're packing up quickly, we have bachibazon, we know on Passover that we don't even have bread because they were so quick to leave that they had the matzah. But the women had this intuition to say, we have such a deep faith, we have such emunah that this is going to happen. We have to bring our musical instruments because this is the moment of our redemption. And so here we see the song as a connection to that faith, as a connection to that deep sense of knowing that it's going to work out, even in the moments when the certainty isn't necessarily there, that the timbrels and that dance represent that connection to God in the uncertain moments.
So I mean, in many ways, these two texts are somewhat opposite. You know, one is that song is a response to the miracle, and the other is the belief that the miracle could be. So they're anticipating the song in order to bring the timbrels along. So that's a really different orientation around the nature of song.
It's interesting because the juxtaposition of these two texts and these two understanding of the song's role in bringing on or responding to miracles, it reminds me of this incredible midrash in Masechet Pesachim in the Babylonian Talmud that looks at the discrepancies, the differences in the ways that some of the psalms begin. Some begin with Mizmor LeDavid, and some begin with LeDavid Mizmor. And the interpretation that the sages offer to this discrepancy is that some of these psalms were composed in response to divine inspiration, that the psalms that begin with LeDavid Mizmor were composed in response to feelings of divine miracle, divine power, and the ones that begin Mizmor LeDavid were when the feeling of connection and power and miracle was not there, and the song was composed as a way to bring it on. And that feels like the second one, right? The faith. Like, I have faith that if I sing, the miracle will come, redemption will come. And in number 2, I am feeling so incredibly inspired by the divine miracle, the divine power, that I have no choice but to sing in response.
Beautiful. And there's that also mirrors. There's a question in the tradition about when they sang. Did they sing upon arrival, or did they sing at the beginning, essentially to walk through, was the song a propelling nature to kind of get them through versus a celebration of the arrival? So the next text that we're going to look at is on 5. It's the Kedushat Levi Yitzchak of Berdichev, which has a different take on the Yashir Moshe. He says, he quotes the verse, thus Moshe and the children of Israel sang this song, and they said, saying, first, we must understand that the essence of joy is what a person feels in his heart. Seeing that this is so, what need is there to express these feelings in speech and song or poetry at the time of his joy? So what's bothering the Kedushat Levi is that there's a doubling, because it says, Vayomru lemor. There's a doubling of the saying, and the commentators point that out. And he's saying, well, they're already feeling the joy. What need is there to actually put it out in the world? And he gives a really beautiful answer, which is, the reason is that joy in one's heart, unless formulated in word and song, is bound to subside and cease altogether in short order. But by giving verbal expression to one's joy and composing a song and writing poetry, one prolongs and intensifies this feeling of joy, which is a really, really powerful notion, in some way why we have the liturgy at all, in some way, which is to say that having written these psalms or these songs, like we'll sing this Shabbat, is an expression of the joy to make it last longer. That feelings of joy obviously are fleeting. They become memories, but kind of encasing it in language and in expression, and for here the Israelites is in song, actually makes it a sustaining power. And we, in many ways, by singing the shir, plug into that, because we in some way bear the zechut, the merit of their singing. We get to tap into that every time we do it. So the Israelites were aware of this psychological axiom, and this is why they yearn to give proper expression to their joy. They yearn to share their joy with the Creator, who had been the architect, enabling them to harbor such joyous feelings in their breasts. So it's like, how do you move from the internal feeling to the externalized, and what does that do?
I do also wonder, in looking at this, if this is a sort of great explanation for why in our liturgy we also sort of capture some of the feelings of confusion and sorrow and questioning, right? Because it's important to kind of lock in and canonize those realities of our feelings and of our prayers alongside the joy. That has to be there also for memory, for posterity forever in our prayers.
I was also having a very similar reaction as listening to it, actually thinking about my personal experience with even with the melody we used with the Baal Shem Tov Nigun that we just sang at the end of the Amidah. I have gone to that melody in times that were very challenging for me. I used that melody when I was interviewing here, actually. I had to record something, and that was the melody that I went to. And when I sing it, I actually can feel those different moments in my life where it has come up. And in thinking about actually the song as a container for whatever the emotion is, going back to the faith or to, is it going to be a miracle? Just the idea of a song and how much it can hold for each of us, how much a melody, the words, and how that can change and shift over time, that the same melody can mean different things, and that the tradition, as you were saying, Felicia, says, did we sing it when we first left the sea? Were we singing it as we were walking? Did we sing it when we were on the other side? And perhaps it was all. Perhaps the song was holding every piece of the emotional experience that we were having as we were leaving, as we were walking through the complexity of this redemption, which it's not only joy. The moment of leaving was painful and scary, and the next side of, we know we crossed the sea only to get to the Midbar.
only to get to this incredible expanse of unknown. And the song holds all of that, which is in so many ways a reality of my experience of song too.
Beautiful. So we're going to look at one more text, which is actually
a transition into it.
Yeah, it's good. The text on page 3, text 6, which is probably a familiar text in many ways. Often it's quoted in the Haggadah when we take out the wine from our cups. It's the Gemara about that one at the ministering angels were singing at the crossing of the sea, and they desired to recite a song before the Holy Blessed One. And the Holy Blessed One said to them, "My handiwork," meaning the Egyptians, "are drowning in the sea, and you are reciting a song before me. Apparently God is not gladdened by the downfall of the wicked." And so this is an interesting, I had never actually thought about it in this way. I think we always quote this text to kind of recognize that that triumph is always someone's sorrow, and that God can hold that. That God's voice is the rebuke to say that the way the world is set up doesn't mean that God doesn't see the Egyptians, or you could say the Palestinians, or whoever you put in those categories of who are not you, that God believes that those folks are God's handiwork, and we shouldn't, or God saying to the angels that in divine space, we shouldn't rejoice in that way. Interestingly enough, it doesn't, of course, rebuke the Israelites, right? There's a difference in the moment of recognizing that the Israelites are singing and God is not asking them to stop, and that the human experience in many ways has to find voice for moments of liberation, even when they sometimes come at the expense of those who had been capturing them, right, who the oppressor. But God's position is not that position. And kind of in many ways, the gap between the world as we hope it to be, which is the divine vision of the world, and the human experience, which often sees things in very stark terms, which is there's only one who should be singing and the other should be drowning.
Yeah, this is sort of this beautiful reminder that we as humans we have these limitations, right? And we are only able to kind of sing out whatever we're experiencing in that moment, right? As Becca said, the song is the container for what we're experiencing, and more gets put into that container the more we experience and the more we live. And when we express something as sort of sharp as like, rejoice in the downfall of our enemies, that speaks to all of the experiences in our container in that moment. And can we allow ourselves to live in that, and then look at God as inspiration for really what could be in our songs?
Yeah, I'm also just thinking of the line in Ashrei, Tov Adonai lakol v'rachamav al kol ma'asav, that God has compassion for every one of God's creations, and to the divine song is a song of love for all people and compassion towards all people, and recognizing that in our moments of singing, that ability to also hold, whether it's our moments of joy and singing in our joy, and knowing that maybe there are others who are suffering while we're in our moments of joy, and vice versa, that when we're in our moments of deep sorrow and maybe our song is the container of that sorrow, that we're also holding on to the spark, that there is also joy, that the multiplicity of what it is to be human and to live in a world, song holds all of that, and the divine song actually holds all of that, which in many ways is prayer, is the prayer that we're doing together.
Beautiful. Amen.